All right, in today's Whiteboard Wednesday, I'm going to be talking about how to speed along the recovery process for minor tweaks, sprains, tendonitis, other minor issues that will be interfering with training. Again, as I mentioned in the last episode, I can't speak to more serious injuries. That's far outside of my scope of practice. That's not something I have experience in treating, although I do have some experience in helping that process along in the very later stages once an individual is working back from an injury, from a serious injury, into and getting back into normal training. So I'm going to be talking about some of the minor issues. And again, even with this, you want to make sure that you consult with your doctor before you do anything that I suggest. Make sure to get their opinion and make sure that you know exactly what is wrong with you. We don't want you to think that you have tendonitis when actually you've torn something and it's more serious and it's going to require a different course of action. So make sure that you get a professional opinion for whatever is ailing you. And so I'll get into this. And the first thing I want to start off with is anti-inflammatories. And that's kind of a controversial topic. Some people say stay away from them. You don't need them. They're bad for you. And to some extent, that is true. They do tend to be a digestive irritant. And so that it's not good to take them for long periods of time. What happens, and I've been guilty of this myself, many people try to avoid them too much. They don't think they need them, or they think that because they're bad for them, they want to avoid them altogether. But then the problem they have, say it's tendonitis, so there's some inflammation that starts to become more and more severe because they're not taking anti-inflammatories. And eventually, it gets to the point where there's really no other course of action than to take anti-inflammatories. Eventually they go see their doctor, and their doctor tells them, you're going to have to start taking some anti-inflammatories, and typically they're prescribed some anti-inflammatories that are actually more powerful and that they'll have to take for a longer period of time because they let that problem develop too much. And so what I typically tell people is, if you start feeling some irritation in a particular area, say it's your shoulder or your elbow, just take some anti-inflammatories for 2 or 3 days. Hopefully, if you catch it early enough, that should take care of the problem. And then you don't have to worry about it. Go back to living your life free of anti-inflammatories. So don't wait to address that problem and then have to take them anyway, and for a longer period of time and in higher dosages. So just, if you feel some irritation, sure, take some anti-inflammatories, get it out of your system, get that inflammation down, and just get back to training normally. Now granted, it doesn't always work that way, so you may have to take them for a longer period of time, or you may have to take some more time off of training, do some different things to avoid irritation. And that brings me to my next point, which is avoiding irritation. Now, whether it's a tweak of some kind, you tweak your back on a warm-up set squatting, or you feel some irritation somewhere, whatever the case may be, you obviously want to avoid irritating that area and making the problem worse than it already is and prolonging that. So, it seems fairly self-explanatory, but too often people ignore it. You want to avoid things that irritate whatever issue you have. You want to make sure that you're not doing movements that irritate your issue. And so, again, that's fairly self-explanatory, but it's something that's unfortunately often overlooked. The third thing is blood flow, increasing blood flow. Because the more blood that you can get to whatever issue you have, to whatever area is having an issue, the faster that healing process is going to occur. And so you can do that in a number of different ways. So heat is one of those ways that you can increase blood flow, so using a heating pad or something of that nature, some warm water. By doing that, you can increase blood flow to the site of injury or inflammation, and that's going to help speed along that recovery process. Movement as well is going to increase blood flow, but again, you have to make sure that whatever movement that is that's increasing the blood flow is not irritating the issue, whatever issue you're having. And there are a couple other things that can really help with increasing blood flow and speeding along recovery. One of them, this is a Compex unit, and what you do with this is you attach some cables, and then it's electrical muscle stimulation, and so it has electrodes that you attach to your skin, and they activate muscles, and it has preset programs that stimulate the muscle in different ways, different intensities, different work and rest ratios. And what you can do is you can use that. I mean, you can use it for increasing strength, you can use it for increasing endurance, hypertrophy, and you can use it for active recovery. And when it comes to injuries, you can just do the active recovery setting, and our clients have access to the Compex unit here at Comprehensive Strength. You can use that to stimulate muscles and increase blood flow to the affected site without actually irritating the issue further. Now granted, that's not always going to be the case depending on what the injury is. If it's something like tendonitis, it's going to work great. If it's a more serious issue, if you've torn something, that may not be the best idea. So again, it's one of those things that has to be applied in certain circumstances only. And yeah, you can find a list of contraindications on their website, or you can contact us directly. We have the full list of contraindications for using the Compex. And again, make sure you consult with your doctor to make sure that's an appropriate course of action. One of the other things, which we also have here at Comprehensive Strength, is this is a Norma Tech. And this is actually an air compression unit. You attach it via tubes to these large boots, and they do sell them for the upper body as well. Currently we only have the boots that go over your legs. We don't have the arms, but again, that's a little different. So the Compex was electrical muscle stimulation. It works by connecting the electrodes to your skin. The Norma Tech is actually compression, so it fills different sections of the boot up with air, and then it has a specific pattern that it goes through in terms of which area it focuses on, but it increases the amount of air in that particular section, and it provides compression. So it's like a light massage, and you can adjust the intensity of that as well as you can adjust the intensity of the electrical muscle stimulation with the Compex. You can adjust the intensity of the compression with the Norma Tech. And so again, that compression is going to create blood flow to the affected site, assuming, of course, that with the Norma Tech, it's a lower body issue. It's somewhere in the legs. That's really going to help that a lot. And one of the great things about both of those is it's scalable. Obviously, it's adjustable. You can change the intensity, and so that's going to allow you to get enough stimulus to actually get the blood flowing, but it's not going to be so much that it's going to irritate that site. And it's something that both of those are very user-friendly. You can adjust them on your own, so it's not a coach trying to determine, or a massage therapist or something like that, trying to determine how much irritation you're feeling in a specific site. That's something that you can adjust on your own. And so those are both very great devices for dealing with minor irritation and injuries in some cases, but especially things like tendonitis. Very, very helpful for those, and those are something that our clients at Comprehensive Strength have access to if they need it. Also, it can be used for just typical active recovery after workouts, after competitions. So those are both great devices. The final thing here is maintaining strength. So obviously, if you have irritation somewhere, if you have a sprain or minor tweak or tear, your training is going to be affected for a certain amount of time. How long is going to vary drastically depending on what the issue is, where the issue is, and just who you are and how you deal with those things, and how resilient you are. Some people are just going to recover faster than others. But maintaining strength is really important, especially for competitive athletes. And so you have to train what you can, essentially, and find ways to work around whatever injuries you have. So you have to find movements that you can do that won't irritate whatever issue you are having. And so having a good coach helps there, and you can typically find ways to work around it. I've had numerous issues in the past. Right now I'm nursing a bit of an adductor issue in my left leg, and I can still stiff leg deadlift. I can't normal deadlift because that uses the adductor. Stiff leg deadlifts do not. It's all hamstrings and back. So that's just an example of how you can work around an injury, although it may take some creativity, and we have some varying tools to help for people who are injured. We have a Swiss press bar that provides neutral grips. That can be great for people who are having elbow issues or shoulder issues. That neutral grip can help significantly in easing the amount of stress that's placed on those joints. We have a safety squat bar that has parallel handles that come out in front that you can hold on to. So again, for people suffering from any sort of shoulder or elbow irritation, and where having the bar on your back for squatting is going to irritate one of those issues, you can have those hands in front so you can still get your squatting in. So we have ways to work around that, and so it takes some good coaching and some experimentation to figure out what's going to work. And again, it helps to have a coach, and it helps to have a coach who can work in tandem with whatever medical professionals you may be working with, your doctor, a physical or occupational therapist, so that they can provide some lists of things that are contraindications and things that are indicated. So that can help a lot. And again, going back to the Compex unit, the electrical muscle stimulation, attaching those electrodes to your skin in certain areas that you can obviously place that more specifically. And because of that, you can train muscle groups that are around but the affected area, but aren't the affected area itself. So that's a good way to sometimes maintain strength in an area of the body without actually irritating the issue that you're having. And so those are just a few tips, and we'll see you next week.